welcome. How are we doing today? All right. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody for coming out to my very first conference talk. My name is DeVonta Johnson. I'm a senior software engineer at a company called DaySlice, where we make software that helps service providers collect and schedule their payments. I've been coding for nearly a decade, and mostly full-stack JavaScript, but a couple other languages as well. And I've also been a teacher. I've been a teacher for React, React Native, and Express for a couple of years. And all of that is to say that I faced a lot of challenges in my career. But all these challenges is what got me the opportunity to come talk to y'all today. So, believe it or not, of these 10 years, I started my career with no plan at all. So that's why I wanted to do this talk today called Becoming a CODING-KAGE, the Senior's Path, to help people set out a roadmap for their career and also to give them tips for becoming a senior level developer. So I've got three main objectives today. The first, we're going to talk about the road to becoming a CODING-KAGE. The second, we're going to talk about the senior's path, which is what it means to be a senior, what it means to me to be a senior developer. And third, we're going to talk about the senior skills showcase. So you can have the skills to make that leap from a mid-level to a senior level developer. And now, what is a Kage? Now that is Kage, that's not Cage. I get that a lot sometimes, but that is a reference from Naruto. I think it's the greatest story ever told. And a Hokage is a leader in their village, much like a senior developer is a leader on their team. So let's get into the first part, the road to a CODING-KAGE. Now let's talk about why these titles matter. Why do these titles matter at all? So, we have titles in our world, but ninjas, they have ranks. But either way, a rank is what helps set people's expectations of you. Those expectations lead to how people perceive you, which directly influences the amount of influence that you have, and that influence is ultimately what determines your impact. So let's talk about some of the levels in the engineering ladder. At the bottom of level 1, we have the junior level. And in parentheses, that's a Genin. That is the Naruto equivalent rank. So at the bottom, junior developers. At level 2, we have the mid-level or tuning rank. At level 3, we have senior. At level 4, even above senior, we have that staff or that Kage rank. That's the level that we're aiming for. Now, let's talk about some of the salaries that come along with being an engineer. So you can see at the bottom, for a junior developer, it's $65K on average. For a mid-level, it's $76K. At senior, it's $124K. And also notice, once you get to this senior level, you're worth nearly 2 junior developers put together. That's a lot of expectations. That's a lot of expectations that we have for our seniors on our team. And then let's talk about the last, a staff level Kage, average salary, $150K. Now I pulled these numbers in from a website called PayScale. Now this is more representative of what you would find at a non-big tech, non-fame company when it comes to salaries. But a big tech company or fame company, staff engineer, their salaries could exceed over $500,000 easily. And speaking more about these big tech companies, let's look at the examples from 2 of them that are pretty well known, Netflix and Google. And we're going to compare their titles at the tuning rank, or mid-level developer. So on the left we have Netflix, on the right we have Google. And on the left, Netflix L3 engineer is equivalent to a Google L3 Suite 2. So these levels are pretty equivalent at both companies. But let's look at levels at both these companies at that Kage rank. So you can see that on the left, that staff engineer, L6 staff engineer at Netflix overlaps with Google's L6 and L7 levels. So these titles, these buckets are not like definite across companies, but they do help to set expectations no matter where you come from. But nobody starts out at the Kage rank. Nobody starts out at that senior rank. It's all about your mindset that you take on to get there. So you want to have a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. Now, a fixed mindset is the belief that basically wherever you were born, the capabilities that you were born with are all you're going to have, and that's all you'll ever need, which is a pretty sad existence if you ask me. So instead, what you want to do is adapt a growth mindset. That belief that through hard work, you can increase your intelligence and increase your ability. This is the same energy that Naruto brings to being a Hokage, and it's the same energy that I want you to bring when it comes to reaching that senior developer level. And speaking of that senior developer level, let's get into part 2, the senior's path. So up on the board, you see what's called the focusing question. Now this focusing question comes from a book I read called The One Thing. And this question is meant to set you on the path to the most important thing that you want to get to, no matter what area of your life you apply this question to. So we're gonna that question is, what's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary? Now we can take this question, apply it to our careers, and we can say, what's the one thing I can do in my software development career such that by doing it, everything else is easier or unnecessary? And that answer is to reach the senior level. Now on this next slide, I want people to raise their hands if you recognize what you see. Okay, yeah. So that's Goku turning Super Saiyan. We see the lights, we see the hair change, we know that when this happens, the fight is about to turn up, right? So in addition to that, we see that when Goku goes from regular to Super Saiyan, it's obvious when it happens because of all those reasons. But going from a mid-level to a senior level developer, it's not so obvious. Nobody can look at your hands or check out your fingers and tell how much code you wrote. So I was also listening to another talk on engineering matters from a guy named Marco Rogers. And one of the quotes that stuck out to me was, senior is the only level that anyone understands. Now I like this quote, but I take it to mean senior is the only level that we all agree on. Now why do we all agree on this? Because there are expectations that come with being a senior developer. And I boiled this down to a top 3, but this list could be 5 times as long. There's a lot of expectations when you're a senior. But let's look at my top 3. The technical expertise. Can you create high quality software quickly that is less error prone than the code that a junior or a mid-level developer would write? Communication across teams. You're gonna have to be the voice of the dev team in most instances. You're gonna have to communicate with the other people on your team, designers, marketing team, the executives. You're gonna have to set their expectations when it comes to technical capabilities of what your product or your language that your company is working in can and cannot do. And the third is having a team-wide impact. Now, once you become a senior developer, congratulations, you're a role model now. You're gonna have to be the one that sets the tone for mentoring people on your team, your juniors and your mid-level developers. You're gonna have to be the one that sits and helps enforce coding standards at your company. And also, you're gonna have to be the one that helps people understand what level they have to reach in your company. So all of these expectations, once you hit the senior level, are part of our expectations of you. But also, once you hit that senior level, we expect that any of these paths are open to you at that time. So you could go the senior plus route, where you want to go to a staff or a director or a principal level, going beyond senior, or maybe you write all this code to hit the senior level, and then you decide you are tired of writing code and you want to get into management. Maybe that's your option. Or you're tired of working for a company. You want to go off and do your own thing, go into open source, or start your own company, becoming a consultant or a founder, or maybe even just freelance. Either way, whatever path you decide to take, once you hit that senior developer rank, all of these paths are open to you. You can do what you want because you have the technical capabilities to do so. So I've been talking about why the senior developer level is so important. So I'm gonna give you some skills to help you get to that senior level. We're gonna talk about part 3 with the senior skills showcase. Now, I talked about the fixed and growth mindsets earlier, but the mindsets that I want you to adapt while we're thinking about these examples are a user-centric and a product-centric mindset. Now, why these two mindsets? It's because about a year and a half ago, at my current company, DaySlice, I asked my CEO what were the biggest things that I could improve on. And her feedback to me was, you need to develop more of a user-centric and a product-centric mindset. Now, I'm probably 5-6 years into my career at least by now, so I think I'm him. I think I'm nice on the keys at this point. So I'm taking this feedback particularly important. So the two mindsets, first the user-centric mindset, where that is an approach in which the needs of the user comes in before, during, and after development, as opposed to a product-centric mindset where your focus is the product itself, developing new features for the product that you think will help differentiate yourself, and it's not necessarily what customers are asking for. So to help with the user-centric scenario, we're gonna give an example of a code review, which is one of the best places that you can show some of your technical skills. And in this scenario, younger me is going to send in some code that he wants me to review. Now, unfortunately, we had some technical issues, so I can't show you the website that I had laid out to give this example. But I want you to imagine there's a website with a bunch of NBA logos. And once you click on one of those logos, it shows you the members of that team. Now, while I'm checking out a code review, this is looking at the code that my younger version has sent in. That once we click on these things, everything seems to work correctly. And then me, as the senior, I'm going to start thinking about the application from a user-centric mindset and thinking from what a customer would do. And one high-frequency action that a customer takes on your website is just simply to refresh the page. So in this example, for the code that my younger version has sent in, when we refresh the page, our application fails, our application crashes. And what I want to do is exemplify why that code would crash whenever that refresh happens, even though it seems to work normally. So, up on the board, I have some code that the younger version of me has sent in. You can see on the route, there's the path to go to the team details page that would display the list of players on that team. And inside the route, on the state, is where the team data lives. And inside of our team details component, it's taking in some props, and that first line is the line that gets our team data and then populates the other information that we need, the ID, the logo, and the name. Now, the problem with this is that the team data is being stored inside of the state of the route. So when that team data is passed in to the state in the route, once we refresh our page, that state is lost. It's gone. So refreshing causes a crash on our website. Now this is bad for the customer. There's technical issues, of course, but this is also bad for the customer because that's a poor user experience. You're going to lose reputation for your website once people start having these bad experiences. And also, you're going to potentially lose sales. And if sales isn't your metric for success on your website, maybe it's daily active users or something like that, that number is going to go down whenever people have these lesser experiences with your website. So what can we do about it? So I would take that code, and as the senior on the team, I would write it like this. So we're going to look at the updated route, and in the path now, we have /team/:ID. Now that, if you've ever seen this syntax, that :ID is a parameter that will be replaced with the actual team ID of whichever team that we click on our application. And then inside of our team details component, we can get that ID from the parameters when it's in the URL, and we can use that ID to make another API request to get our team data. and then use that to populate our logo and our name or whatever else information that we need from for that team. Now, why is this a better solution? I would have shown you, but we can't. But we can still talk about it. This is a better solution because once we have that ID placed into the URL, we can retrieve that ID from the URL, fetch the data when that page loads, so whenever we go to refresh the page, it's then preserved. That state is still there. We don't get that crash. For the customer, we preserve their user experience because our site doesn't crash on them. We prevent issues before they get into our code base during this code review, which is one of your most important goals as a senior developer, to catch these bugs before they hit the user. And this also allows our pages to get shared, because additionally, the refresh would fail, but also if you try to give that link to someone else and they try to load that page and see that team you're looking at, it would also crash. This fixes all of those problems, and that's a real senior solution. So that's our product-centric scenario, well, that's our user-centric scenario. So let's jump into our product-centric scenario, which is a pair programming example. And in this scenario, the younger version of me has asked the pair program on some code. And me, since younger me is my favorite student, I want to show off for him. So I'm going to show him how to take this code up from a level 1 all the way up to a level 5. So let's look at level 1 of this code that we're going to start our pair programming on. This is a regular degular async function that is going to go out and get some characters and then return those characters. Now this would work initially and it'll be fine, but I want to take it from a level 1 to a level 5. So at level 2, the first thing that we want to do is once we get an API request or some third-party request to some code working, the first thing we want to do is handle the case when that doesn't work. So at level 2, we're going to add in some error handling into our async function. So now, whenever we make a request to our API, and for some reason that API call fails, we can handle it. Again, we're thinking about the user because we don't want to have to crash on, but also this is code that we want. This is something that you want to do whenever you're working with third-party code. Make sure you handle the times when things go wrong. Now, this is a real tuning level, mid-level code. This is probably good enough to get your code into production and get your PR passed. But we're here for KAGE level coding. We're not going to stop here. So at level 3, what I want to do is to show my younger version, this higher order function called auto error handling. Now what this function is going to do, it's going to take in a function and it's going to already have that error handling built in. This auto error handler already has that try-catch functionality built in. So we only need to pass in our function to it and everything else will be handled for us. Now this is senior level code. And this is senior level code because it is code that your entire team can then use, and this can be reusable to what's the word? So all of our code will be centralized. There we go. So all of our code will be centralized in one location when it comes to our error handling. So once all of our code is centralized, and we can have this code, all in one location. The next thing we want to do to take this from a level 3 to a level 4 is to add in custom error handling. So if we look now inside of our auto error handler, we can add in a custom error handler. So now, depending on what type of error we get back from our server, we can handle those differently. Because you may want to handle a 500 error differently than a 400 error. So depending on that severity, and we can set up how we want to respond, and also we can do things like log to the database. We can add in that error, and we can add in any other relevant information that helps us debug our functions easier once that customer no doubt comes and says there was a problem with our application. And then at the last level, at level 5, what we're going to do with this auto error handler is we're going to add in a notification system. So you can see under our custom error handler, if the error message we get back from the API is that the server is unavailable, we're going to send a Slack message to our team. And this Slack message is going to say emergency. Because let me tell you, if your API goes down, it is an all hands on deck situation. So, and maybe we only want to do this when that server is unavailable. So we want to help, so this helps us to prioritize our responses to our errors. So, and all in all, we're going to look at all of the traits of our level 5 function. At the end, what we have is a reusable higher order function with built-in try-catch error handling, custom error handling, database logging, and a notification system. Now this is CODING level code. And this is CODING level code because this code doesn't just impact you. This code impacts your entire company. This allows you to respond faster. This allows you to get notifications to your team faster so you know that there was a problem. There are quicker, you can respond to your customer quicker and let them know that you've seen there was an error. And then this also provides for easier debugging. With that database logging, you can pass in any relevant information so you can have a starting point for when you go to fix these errors. You're also creating for others with the higher order function that's reusable. And our notification system lets us prioritize the errors that we get. And so those are my main 3 topics. So just to review, the big 3 ideas that we had, I want you to research the path that you want to take in your career and adapt your mindset to achieve it. Our next big idea is reaching the senior level should be your biggest objective. And the third thing is being a contributor that positively impacts your team and others outside your team. It's how you show you're on that next level, that cognitive level, or that senior level, wherever you want to take your career. So I hope that you got some things out of this that you can take and start using those mindsets, whether it's growth mindset or user-centric or product-centric mindset, so you can take these skills and these lessons to shorten the time that it took me to learn in my career. I've also got a couple other resources for you. If you get a copy of these slides, there's a book from Tanya Riley called The Standard Engineer's Path. If you want to go on the Senior Plus route some more, there's a book by Sean Wayne called the Coding Career Handbook that actually walks you from a junior level all the way up to that senior level. And then there's a website, levels.fyi, that will help you to compare titles and salaries across companies with well-established engineering ladders. And you're not going to learn all this stuff on your own. So it takes a village of people to teach you. So here's a few people that inspired me in one way or another, or I've learned something from them to do this talk today. All of these people are in tech, and some of them are here in the crowd and have their own talks today. So please go check them out. And in case I want you all to go become a CODING-KAGE, and thank you all for listening.